Alright, hi. Welcome to my podcast. This isn't a podcast, this is a voiceover. But this is going to be about the raw image format. Because, we all need a little bit of raw images in our life. They are very important, They keep your images intact. But we're going to go over that in a bit. Before that, enjoy the background footage. It should be about VTOL VR, one of the most fun games I've ever played. But that's not what we're here about. We're here about the raw image format, so let's talk about it, shall we? First things first, what is it? What is it for? Oh, you said image, so it's for images, right? Yeah, it's for images, but it's also for film and audio. But we're here to talk about images specifically. So a raw image is a minimally edited image, right? It's the image that's straight from the camera sensor. Because in cameras, the JPEG that outputs from our phones, it's actually already edited by our phones or the camera itself. It does some editing, it does, what else does it do? It white balances, it does a whole bunch of things. It skin tones, anti-eye reddening and all that stuff. But what RAW does, it's literally the image straight from your camera sensor. Now this can be problematic in a couple ways because guess what? The image is literally from the camera sensor, so it's huge. It's upwards of, what is it? It's literally the amount of megapixels of the camera is the amount of megabytes, more or less, of the raw image. Can you believe that? If you have a 100 megapixel camera, which you do not, no one has 100 megapixel, maybe the Hubble Space Telescope, but that's literal NASA's $20 billion budget, way too low, but that's another topic. So you have a 100 megapixel camera, so a raw image is going to be 100 megabytes. In the future, whenever everyone has a 100 megapixel camera in their phone, it's not going to matter anyway, because space isn't going to be a problem. Everyone's probably going to have petabytes to store. Megabytes will be our kilobytes or bytes. But raw images, for all intents and purposes recently, is really big. Not as big as its competitor TIFF, however, but that's for later. So a raw image is straight from the camera sensor, is literally what it saw. And all the data from the camera sensor is stored in this file. So every pixel has all of its, colors, the hex code, that stuff. It has all of that. So there's 20 millions of those. There's a lot, okay? So you have 20 megapixels, that's 20 million pixels, so 20 million RGB color codes. Now, these RGB color codes are either 12 to 16-bit. Now, this is important because, 12 to 16-bit color, that's really nice. However, as stated earlier, it does suffer to TIFF, which is its competitor, as I said. But TIFF has 32-bit color? I don't know. It's really, really big. That's all you need to know, right? So TIFF just has lots and lots and lots of color, but that makes it skyrocket far, far higher than RAW. Even with RAW's 20 megapixels, because TIFF records more color. But what TIFF fails at is RAW's pure editability. Have you ever taken a photo and said, ew, that's ugly, I don't want that, get it off of my phone, my camera, my computer, whatever. But in the back of your head, I could have done better. It's the white balance is off, it all looks literally blue. It's all just blue washed, orange washed, whatever. The white balance was off. You thought it was day, you thought it was night, so it was correcting for that. But in RAW, that's no problem. You can change the white balance after the image is already taken. Because the white balance, I believe, is also editing from the camera. It's not exactly what is from the camera sensor. But RAW takes exactly from the camera sensor, and that's it. Minimal editing. Nothing that the camera did pretty much absolutely nothing to the photo. So now you can bring it into post like Adobe Light Show, some other things, and you can change everything, absolutely everything about the raw file. You can go from saturation to color gamut, I believe. You can change the white balance, as I said. What else? Sharpness, exposure, and etc, etc, etc. But when raw falls short, just short, it would have been amazing. Everybody would have used it. Absolute fantastic file format. Problem is that every camera has its own raw file. The file formats in RAW cameras heavily depend on the manufacturer, because each manufacturer has their own special RAW format. Because they're like, buy our editor. They want your money. I want your money too, except, I'm not gonna get it. That's how things are. But anyway, they want your money, so they're gonna make you buy their editor for their own proprietary file system, which is like exclusive, basically. That's all you need to know about proprietary. And then on top of that, can you believe Adobe Lightshow is capable of editing every single, well, most, I'm not going to say every single, because then I can get sued for slander or something, but most RAW file formats. And this is fantastic. However, it cannot edit it to the ability of the proprietary editing softwares, because they know their own stuff best. That's obvious. But RAW hasn't always been like this. Actually, it has. But we're going to be talking about its history. Now, it has a very short history. You don't really need... It's not like, okay, class, bring out your history books. All right, turn to page 7084. No. It's literally like 2 sentences. The RAW file format was created by Adobe when they made the digital negative, which file extension is .dng. In 2004. 2004! Wow! That's more than 3 years ago. And at the time, DNG was the first and only format to record all the data from the sensor. Can you believe how innovative that was? It's like, Adobe was sitting there like, how are we gonna sell more Adobe Lightshows? Maybe, just maybe, we offered extreme editability. So if you make a mistake in taking a photo, you can edit it and change it. Only in ours, Adobe Lightshow, Like, we're gonna be raking in the cash. Splish splash, I was raking in the cash. And I don't know if they actually did rake in the cash. I hope they did, because good lord, that was an amazing move. But anyway, it was the first file to actually record everything from the camera sensor. Because, I don't know, why didn't anybody think of that? Who knows? They know, actually, because they're the ones that didn't think of it. And currently, the digital negative file format is still in use by Adobe. Because you wouldn't throw away a file format that can still be used. Like, MP4s, they're still used. MP3s, they're still used. Like, no reason to throw them out. They work. They do their job. You have OGG, Vorbis, you have something else for OGG, I don't know. You have all these other formats, but people still use MP3 and MP4. Why? Because they work and they're easy to use. And the RAW format is open for anybody. I don't know completely on this, because whenever I went to the website, the something Library of Congress, it said that, what was it? Its licensing is to be decided or denounced, whichever one you want to say. And so currently I don't know. I'm just assuming that it's free to use, because it's a standard, not really a closed source type of thing. But you don't need to worry about compression in your RAW files, because it literally does not compress. It does nothing. It's just, hey, this is what the camera said. This is what the camera saw. Okay, cool. Hey, storage. Ha! And that's pretty much how it works. But for some reason, the file size of RAW is still smaller because of the colors. One advantage over RAW, because right now we're going back to the RAW versus TIFF, That's something you kind of gotta keep in mind, because TIFF and RAW, very close together. They both don't really compress much. RAW doesn't compress at all. TIFF has lossless compression. But TIFF, its file sizes are massive. And in cameras, there's a buffer. So whenever you take a photo, you can take multiple photos. And while the photo is still being written to the card, you can still take more photos. That's what the buffer is for. So if you take a photo, it's written to the buffer, and it's read from the buffer and written into the card. Now, your buffer can run out, so that means you can't take any more photos, or your photos will be lost or corrupted. I don't know how it works, but TIFF just absolutely destroys your buffer, because it's huge file sizes. I don't know exactly. I'm thinking somewhere between like 30 or 50 megabytes, which is a lot. I think, especially because it's over double, 1.5 times or 2 times the RAW file size. But now that we've determined that TIFF is big, let's see who uses TIFF. TIFF is for like, let's think about it. If you're using TIFF, you have good colors and straight from the camera, it's ready to go. So you have beautiful colors straight from the camera ready to go. Who would use this? If you don't like editing, that's the people. If you don't like editing but you still want really good photos, you use the TIFF format. Because you can take a beautiful picture of the sky and get colors that no other file format could. Now this is amazing, but you can still reach amazing heights with RAW. Because you can edit everything, you can change the sky color, you can change the exposure, shown in a beautiful image that I'm probably going to be putting on screen now. Now that's such an amazing difference. The left is the RAW format, RAW file footage before editing. So you can see that to correctly expose the sky, the landscape had to be underexposed, that's why it's so dark. But in the right, that's the edited RAW. That's the same photo, it's just edited. Now can you believe that? That's insane. Because they were able to change the exposure of the ground while keeping the exposure of the sky perfectly fine without having to take another photo. Now the right photo looks obviously better. If you took the same photo with a TIFF, you would get an overexposed sky or blah 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 blah, underexposed blah blah blah. But it's simply not possible to take that kind of a photo with TIFF in the same scenario. And let's go to JPEG actually. You know what, we've massacred TIFF. We don't need to worry about them anymore. Because we already know, if you like editing, go for RAW. If you like not editing, go for TIFF. But let's go to JPEG. Boy, do we have a lot to say about JPEG. RAW absolutely destroys JPEG in editability. Obviously, RAW is the king of editing. If you want to edit, and if you like editing, RAW is the absolute king. You will not get anybody who will beat him. That's like bringing a knife to a tank fight. You're not gonna win, okay? There's nothing you can do. Now JPEG is edited in the camera and then lossily compressed. Lossily? Lossful. I don't know, lossfully compressed. Whatever. But it's compressed and tons of data is lost. It goes, I don't need this. Okay. Throws out all the data. So if you have a really poorly exposed shot, like you're overexposing so everything is bright and whitewashed, it's all disgusting. With a JPEG image, there's not much you can do. With RAW, you can just, let's turn down the exposure. Alright, we're good. And it's just like that. It's perfectly fine. It's amazing. In fact, that's why, that at least in editability, RAW destroys TIFF. As I said, knife to a tank fight. Or at this point, knife to an A-10 fight. A-10 Warthog, you know? That big Burt gun plane. Here, have a photo of it. It's pretty easy to recognize. It goes Burt, but then comes file size. JPEG is the A10 in this scenario. JPEG has minuscule, like 735 megabytes, while RAW is sitting at 20 megabytes, right? So RAW will chew through the buffer of the camera way before JPEG will. You can take hundreds of shots, however big your buffer is, hundreds of shots with JPEG, and it'll just whoosh, 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 whoosh. There you go. There's your photos. Have them. Oh no! But that's basically how it is. Anyway, welcome to the JPEG versus RAW comparison. Well, the people who use them comparison. We've already went over JPEG versus RAW. So who uses JPEG? Us. Pretty much all of our phones take photos in JPEG. And of course, as I said, JPEG's already edited. There's not much you can do about it. However, I believe you can probably take photos in RAW on your phone. I'm not completely sure on this. I don't want to dig through my phone for that. That's not something that I'm fond of. I like taking photos, but I'm not going to edit them, so TIFF or JPEG is just fine for me. And once more, the people who like editing are the people who'd take RAW photos. Also, photos in like really weird film sets. Like all of a sudden, you're from a really bright sky to a really dark room. And at that time, you may not be able to change the exposure, everything. You can't change all that. That's just how it is. Alright? So you're probably going to have to shoot in RAW. Because RAW, you don't need the perfect exposure, you don't need the perfect white balance, because that all can be changed. That really doesn't matter. You just need the good photo composition. The people who use JPEG, they take photos of like spaceships, Tesla, race cars, all those kinds of things. Fast moving things that you need to take a lot of photos of, because JPEG, as I said, JPEG goes through the buffer much slower than RAW, and it's just something you need to accept. So I hope by now you've gained a good idea of what RAW is. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes, 21 now, so I hope you do. So once more, we're gonna recap: RAW versus TIFF versus JPEG. RAW, good editability, just generally good, offers you things that TIFF and JPEG can't give you. TIFF, beautiful colors, however, it chews through the buffer. And it's also ready to go straight from the camera. JPEG, easy, quick, flies through, well, just chugs through the buffer. It's extremely slow. You don't really need to worry about it going anywhere. You don't need to worry about running out of buffer space unless for some reason you're taking 1,000 photos a second. That's just a high-speed camera. Anyway, JPEG, fresh off, you can just use it. And also, JPEG is the only one of these three that can be shared online. Can you believe that? You have to break a RAW into JPEGs to share it online. And a TIFF too. All those colors all gone, smashed, gone, reduced to atoms, bits, bytes, gone. He used the formats to destroy the formats. Anyway, it's all JPEG, fresh off, gone, whoosh, it's already done. And that's really all it is. So I hope you enjoyed this. I know I did. This has been 23 minutes now. Good lord, time flies. I'm probably not going to make another one of these. That's a lie. Anyway, I'll see you later. I enjoyed this. I hope you did. You probably didn't. I don't know how long this is going to be. I hope it's somewhere under 10 minutes. I don't know how it's going to end up. And I hope to see you in a bit.